going around.
Jet propelled.
Yep.
Mike Brigida was the lead clinician, in my opinion, for ARP. An incredibly talented guy. I mean, it's just up at his home. We're fast friends. We both work at Berklee College of Music presently. And Mike's the kind of guy, if somebody says, oh, you want to sing such and such a tune? Okay, what key? Not only does he know the tune, he can play it in any key. And I don't mean just, Lutheran hymn, homophonic hymn, Lutheran hymn, four square. I'm talking fully embellished with all kinds of ideas and, amazing talent and other talents. But we've talked about this, that we were both jet propelled for 10, 15 years out in the field, shilling our merchandise, training people, doing all kinds of stuff. A typical industry week was 80 hours. People try to tote that up and say, oh, it couldn't have been. What are you talking about? 80 hours is only 6 days at 14 hours a day. I went many days longer than 14 hours, up in the morning, there in the store, training the sales group there, or lunch with, stand on the floor, sell stuff, go out with a dealer that evening, come back to a public event where you were, doing the clinician thing that night, still to the dealer, and midnight, so forth. 14, 20 hours easily, and day after day of that kind of stuff. Anyhow, Mike and I both had that experience and did those things, being jet propelled, before. I think it was interesting. We knew each other. We weren't exactly chums as competitors, but we had respect for each other and so forth. And there was no, terrible negativity. One day, quite by accident, I guess, or karma, we were seated exactly next to each other just by chance on an airplane going somewhere, probably to a trade show. And, we're talking shop and everything. And I told him, I said, well, when are you going to stop doing this, Mike? He said, what do you mean stop? Why should I stop? I said, you don't think we could keep burning the candle at both ends and the middle like this forever, do you? He'd never thought about it. And he admits this now. He says, oh, yeah, you changed my life. I said, yeah, maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason. But shortly thereafter, he started working for Ray Kurzweil, doing some of the same things. When the Moog company went under, I got out of the business. I did not want to go to work for Japan Incorporated. I don't think that's a racist statement. I think my assessment was fairly accurate, that many Japanese companies would rather arrive at the wrong conclusion if it's done collegially than the right conclusion if it's done by one brilliant person. I was even told at Yamaha when I interviewed out there one time, and I must have projected the self-confidence that I usually do. Well, Tom, at Yamaha, we don't have any superstars. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's why your products usually suck when you bring them to NAMM. The DX7 certainly was a stirring success, but a lot of people don't remember that Yamaha brought all kinds of stuff to trade shows before that sucked. I mean, they didn't fit the market. They were 200 pounds. They were this, they were that. That the presets in them sucked, just. So that's when I got into education, kind of by the skin of my teeth, past 40, PhD in hand, but never having taught in ivy-covered walls. And I was happy to find a place like Berklee, which is a halfway house. It's sort of halfway between academia and industry. But 80-hour work weeks that was nothing. People don't realize how intense that entire experience was. And we finally both decided, that's right, we can't keep doing this. It's fun. And even that, it's an ego shot. You go places and people hang on every word you say because you're from the factory and they want to find out stuff and so forth and so on. Even that after a while, it's like, yeah, okay, so who cares, I just told somebody in Des Moines how a mini Moog works. So why should I tell somebody in Dubuque? You get to that point. or you get allergic to the work. So he and I both, I think, got to that point. And he's been teaching 20, coming up 22 and me 21 at Berkeley, which we both enjoyed, but maybe even that is too much, of one thing. So. Yeah, it's giving you your cue.
Oops. Yeah, that's okay. Said I'm not in center screen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So tell me.
And you probably want to record a little bit of ambient air. Do you do that? I mean, you'll have some in between talking. There's enough there,
I think, but it wouldn't do any harm. Wouldn't. Yeah. Okay. Damn, I should have had a haircut. Okay, tell me about Roger Luther.
Yes, Roger Luther. When I was first at the Moog Company, 72, something like that, the resident. Now I lived in East Aurora, New York, and was working there. Or thereabouts. I get a little confused. Roger showed up to the Moog plant with his wife, who may at that time have been pregnant, and said, I want to work here. And, there was no job posting. There was no job. I mean, but I think Bob Moog must have, in essence, prevailed upon Waytana. This was in Williamsville, I'm pretty sure. By this time, Waytana had purchased the company and brought it to Buffalo, Williamsville, New York. Anyhow, it's one of those American Horatio Alger stories. He shows up, he's willing to sweep the floors just so he can work where Bob Moog is and the Moog Company and so forth. And as time goes on, he becomes a tech. He's a very bright guy. He's very interested in modules and how they're made. He wound up building this incredible modular system while he was there at the plant. Beautiful people, he and his wife. And certainly by the time I was thinking about modules in those early days, he had already done some stuff that influenced me. He had several little portable things with jacks on them. I felt that some of the deficiencies of the Moog modules were they didn't have enough attenuators, not enough attenuators on the control inputs, to which Bob would say, well, you've got these 4-channel mixers. I said, yeah, but you're using up a 4-channel mixer when you just need one attenuator, for Pete's sakes. There were a couple of other things like that. And Roger had developed Tote-A-Volt, Move-A-Mult, and Port-A-Pot, such that they were just like a jack, a male plug that would go in someplace, and then soldered onto that an attenuator, and then a female, for out. So you just put this Port-A-Pot right there, and then you'd stick your cable into that, and you'd have this pot on the side to act as an attenuator, not use up a mixer. And then Tote-A-Volt, of course, was a bias, same idea. You didn't have to use any of the few attenuators in the system. And then Move-A-Mult, which would a multiple, of stick one in and get several out. And then you had those little widgets that Roger had done, and he and I were totally in accord about what we felt could improve modules. I mean, Bob hadn't changed them since they'd been built, way back from 65, 66, when he started taking them to AES shows and stuff like that, trade shows. And then I instigated the development of several modules along those lines, basically. I never thought of it as proprietary on my part. It was just, yeah, that's right. I agree, Roger. Yeah, we need more attenuators. And we had one that had 4 attenuators, and you could jack into the top or the bottom, I don't remember. And it was normal such that you could have 3 different versions of that voltage coming out of the other, or you could do it 2 and 2. In other words, or you could do it 1, 2, 3, 4 separate attenuators. Kind of an interesting little module. And a couple of other things like that. And then we put out a Moog 20, I think it was called. There was the 12, which Vancouver had used at the Taco Bell restaurants. The 15, which was in one Tolex case, each of these. And basically what became a mini Moog, a voice, several oscillators, a filter, an amp, envelope generators, a couple of envelope generators, and so forth. And some of these mixers. So when we took away a couple of the mixers or something, we were able to put a few other modules in because we had this attenuator panel. And that there weren't that many changes and that many new modules. And I don't think there was ever any intention. I proved that it was viable to keep building them, when I came and doubled the sales and so forth. And there was a man named Pat Patronski that was sort of shepherding all of that back in the tech thing. And Pat, occasionally there'd be a few ideas, but there weren't anything like what Serge or Don Buchla or people like that were continuing to proliferate modules. But it didn't fit Norlin, which owned Moog at that juncture, or either Bill Waitana, who was trying to sell it to Norlin, their distribution scheme, which was basically music dealers throughout the world.